Well, it's that time of the day again. It's time for a cup of tea with my favorite people, Israel briefers from all around the world. So if this is the first time that you are joining us, I'm Rolene Marks. This is the Israel Brief, brought to you as always by Lay of the Land. And we take a look at those top stories making headlines in Israel. And of course, because we've got a little bit of quiet now in Israel, we've got the neighborhood dog barking and we've got the neighbors doing things to their apartments. So I do apologize for any background noise. Now, coming up in the show, after we take a look at those headlines, we're going to announce the Mensch and the moron. And the moron this week is by quite a big consensus. And we're going to get to that audience question as well. But let's take a look at those top stories. We are on day 419. Day 419, and a reminder that there are still 101 hostages held captive by Hamas in Gaza. I'm just going to take a sip. I mean, it's no sense joining each other for tea if we're not going to drink it. Am I right? Okay, so let's take a look at the top story, and we begin with news that Prime Minister Netanyahu announced last night that he will be appealing the ICC's warrants of arrest for him and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. Now, earlier this week, Alan Dershowitz, he's a very famous lawyer. Some of you might know him from the media. He was also a lecturer of law at Harvard University, announced that he is assembling a crack team of lawyers to defend the Prime Minister and the former Defense Minister. The Prime Minister also announced that he had been speaking to US Senator Lindsey Graham, who has spoken about some of the legislative plans that he has put forward to US Congress with regards to the ICC. Now, just a reminder, if you don't know, if you aren't familiar, the ICC is formed by what we call the Assembly of States, who have signed an agreement called the Rome Statute. Israel is not a signatory to the Rome Statute, and neither is the United States, but the United States does have legislation called the Hague Invasion, which allows the country to take any punitive action against a country that brings harm to an ally. So this is the ICC issuing warrants of arrest is also breaking effectively American law. I'm not a lawyer, but this has been explained to me by lawyers, and I hope I've explained it in a digestible way to you guys as well. The incoming Trump administration have warned the ICC of enormous sanctions should they go ahead with this. And sanctions could also apply to other states that push forward with possibly arresting Prime Minister Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Gallant. Now, yesterday, France's foreign ministry announced that there are laws of immunity which protect Prime Minister Netanyahu because Israel is not a signatory to the ICC. And earlier today, the Greek foreign ministry followed suit, saying that they will not be pursuing warrants of arrest, that they are regrettable. And they went as far as to say you cannot equate a democratically elected leader who is fighting a defensive war against a terrorist entity that murdered and killed and kidnapped. And also said this is not a case like Russia, who invaded Ukraine without provocation. So thank you to France and to Greece. And outgoing EU Foreign Committee President Joseph Borrell, not a friend to the State of Israel, said that it is an imperative that European countries comply with the ruling of the ICC. For the first time since the 8th of October 2023, the citizens of the North are not experiencing sirens. Now, some people have asked, are citizens starting to return to the North? And the answer to that is very, very, very few. Many are still skeptical about the ceasefire and whether or not it's going to hold. Earlier today, the IDF fired at 4 suspects who had breached the conditions of the ceasefire by going into an area of southern Lebanon that is forbidden. But some of the details of the agreement have been made public, so I'm going to read to you from the official agreement. We will see an increased Lebanese army deployment. Lebanon will deploy 10,000 soldiers to southern Lebanon to replace Hezbollah, doubling the originally reported figure of 5,000 soldiers. They will dismantle unauthorized weapon sites and ensure compliance with the deal. The Lebanese government is expected to regulate all arms imports and production, including dismantling existing arms facilities and preventing future rearmament of non-state groups. Now, Hezbollah is considered a non-state group. This measure is designed to prevent Hezbollah from rebuilding its arsenal close to Israel. A US-led oversight committee supported by France and UNIFIL is being formed to monitor compliance with the agreement. This committee will address violations, work with the Lebanese army to dismantle Hezbollah infrastructure, and coordinate Israel's withdrawal. And of course, this all takes place over a 60-day period. Now, Israel has received some assurances from the United States, and this is according to Israel's Channel 12, which will see intelligence sharing and a response to violations. The United States has reportedly committed to sharing intelligence with Israel regarding potential Hezbollah violations, such as infiltration into the Lebanese army or attempts to rearm. Israel is allowed to respond to threats that the Lebanese army cannot handle. Israel has reportedly been granted permission to conduct reconnaissance flights over Lebanon. These flights are for intelligence purposes and are allowed provided they adhere to international law and do not breach the sound barrier. So let's see if this holds. The IDF also announced last night that just before the ceasefire took hold, that they had struck about 330 sites belonging to Hezbollah and had eliminated Jafar Ali Samaha, the head of Hezbollah's aerial unit. What is quite frightening is that they announced that about 2 months ago they had uncovered plans including materials, sedatives, masks, etc., to put together chemical weapons for use against Israeli civilians and soldiers. Very, very frightening indeed. Now, I think it was 2 days ago, one of our viewers asked the questions if it was safe enough to travel to Israel. Well, because we have the ceasefire in place, at least 2 airlines have announced that they will be rescheduling flights to Israel. This is the budget Wizz Air and the Greek fleet Aegean Air. So we look forward to welcoming, we desperately need those tourists and visitors to come back to Israel. Especially now we are approaching Christmas time and Hanukkah. It's the perfect time to visit our country. And finally, an Egyptian delegation will arrive in Israel today to present what they call a combined vision or plans for the day after. This will see a ceasefire over 1 to 2 months and the gradual release of hostages. Now, according to reports, these hostages will include adults and those suffering from chronic disease. A reminder that most of the hostages are adults, except for 2 children, Ariel, 5 years old, and little Kfir Bibas, who is almost 2 and has spent the majority of his life in Hamas captivity. Egyptian officials have also been in touch with the incoming Trump administration. So those are our headlines. And before we get to the Mensch and the moron, I'm going to take a sip of my tea. I don't want it to get cold. Today's question is an excellent one. It comes from Ian from London, who says, Rolene, do you think the Trump administration will be a lot tougher on Iran? I do, Ian. Thanks for asking that question. I think what we have seen in the past weeks is a semblance of an administration with people who understand the threat that Iran poses very, very well and are committed to taking a hard line. These are administration members at the highest echelons like national security, the Pentagon, and to deal with Middle Eastern affairs. I think that we will also see the return of sanctions on the Iranian regime. President-elect Trump has spoken about that, spoken about the imperative of freeing the Iranian people from the Islamic regime. And I think that they understand very well that the threat of Iran is not just posed to Israel, but is a threat that is posed to the whole region and to the world. And Prime Minister Netanyahu, in the hours after the election results were announced, said that he had spoken to President-elect Trump several times and that the two see eye to eye on issues of Iran. So that is a very pertinent question, especially to what's happening at the moment, and that's where we stand. So right, now the moment that you have been waiting for. Drum roll. And I had a few nominations for these two people to be the moron, the Mensch of the week. And several of you put forward the same recommendation. The first is the president of Hungary, Viktor Orban, who said that not only will he not be arresting Prime Minister Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Gallant, but as a signatory to the ICC, to the Rome Statute, he will be inviting Prime Minister Netanyahu to Hungary. And the second is a phenomenal broadcaster on Sky News Australia. Her name is Erin Molan. She is as brilliant as she is beautiful. She is a very, very vocal supporter of Israel. She is firm in the stand against anti-Semitism and a protector of Western values with an absolute unwavering moral compass. Erin Molan and President Viktor Orban, you are our Mensches of the week. And now for the moron of the week. Well, this, I tell you, I got from all over the world. Imtiaz Sooliman, the founder of a charity in South Africa called Gift of the Givers. Now, according to exposés, one written by the brilliant Marika Sporos, Marika, a good friend of mine and one of the most incredible journalists that I know, writing an expose for Biz News. I implore you all to read it, exposing how Gift of the Givers may not be as humanitarian as people think, that they have been investigated for using their charity to funnel money through to Hamas. And not only that, some of the rhetoric that has come from Sooliman has been absolutely repugnant, saying that he does not respect any laws, not international laws. He only respects the Islamist Sharia law, and using some of the most vile anti-Zionist, anti-Semitic invective that you could imagine. And he is effectively our moron of the week. So guys, all that remains is for me to wish you a wonderful weekend. Please God, we have peace and quiet here, a Shabbat Shalom. And while you're taking some downtime, don't forget to check out our website at www.layoftheland.online, our Facebook page at Lottle's site, our YouTube channel is at the Israel Brief, our X page is at Lay of the Land 5, we're on Instagram at Rolene_Marks, on LinkedIn at Rolene Marks. God bless you all. Shabbat Shalom. Take care of each other and yourselves. Bye for now.